Okay, Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalat, wassalam ala rasulillah. Welcome to We Are All Okay Wednesday on this chilly morning in Adelaide. And our topic today is seeking His pleasure, not theirs. Freeing yourself from people's opinions, finding confidence in how Allah created you, not caring more about and caring more about His view, they got it round the wrong way, than the fleeting judgments of others. Trapped by their thoughts, worrying about what others think shapes our behaviour, holds us back from our true potential, and makes us live by their standards instead of Allah's. So rooted in divine design, when we recognize that we are created by Allah with purpose and perfection in our fitrah, we stand firm in who we are, unshaken by people's opinions. So shifting the audience, the true peace and confidence blossom when we care more about how Allah sees us than how people do, making our actions sincere and freeing us from the need for approval. So I picked this topic because it was something that came up talking to someone yesterday. And I thought, well, this is a great way of not just answering their question, but really, sharing it with others, because I do believe that we often suffer from this. And I say suffer from it because it really does feel like suffering. And it was certainly something that I struggled with and spent a lot of my life, what they term masking, trying to be who I thought the people I was with wanted me to be rather than being myself. And it's absolutely exhausting. And it's so much easier just to be myself. Now, being myself, is that always the greatest thing in the world? No, sometimes being myself is quite interesting, but it's still me, and it doesn't take that. It doesn't just drain the energy, out of me like it used to when I was trying to be what I thought people wanted me to be. So let's just unpack this a little bit more. When we are worried about how other people think, what other people expect, and we're trying to contort ourselves into being something or someone who we're not, trying to be what we think those people want us to be, it does completely change our behavior. We're not being our natural self. We're not being authentic. And we're not really able to access how Allah is guiding us in the moment either, because we're very much in our intellectual thinking of, trying to be the way we think people need us to be. It feels very uncomfortable. Unfortunately, for some people, it gets to the point where you've got used to the discomfort, and so it becomes like a long-term pattern. So for me now, it's incredibly uncomfortable because I'm very familiar with not being like that. So when I pop into that mode every so often, it happens. I really feel it now. But when we've lived our lifetime doing it, we perhaps can't even really define it other than just, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right. And we can't be we can't reach our full potential because we're not honoring who we are, our strengths and our weaknesses. You see, I think sometimes society has expectations that people need to be a certain way. And when you're not exactly like societal or familial or just anybody around you's expectations, um, there's a feeling of deficiency that, okay, I'm not like that, so there must be something wrong with me. And this is the problem, is the thinking something is wrong with me. I didn't even realize until a few years back that I don't know, I don't like using this terminology, but it's the easiest way to explain it. But that potentially I have what they would call describe ADHD. So that means that it's incredibly difficult to function in the way that it's expected for you to function in a normal school or corporate setting. And I always thought that must have been something wrong with me because I found it so incredibly difficult in those environments. I'll give you one example. When I was in the IT industry as a programmer, I was actually quite okay when I was in the R&D, the research and development department, because when you're in R&D, you only have like 3 or 4 projects that you might be working on at a time. And the way I work is I need everything to be in front of me or I forget it. It's one of the signs of ADHD is this out of sight, out of mind, not being able to actually remember that there's things that you're meant to do if it's not in front of you. And I didn't even know I had ADHD when I was doing this. And so on my desk, I would have a pile for each project. And then that way, when I sat down, I could look at the piles and then I would, because I'm quite intuitively know which pile to pick up and which is the one I need to work on now. When I got moved to the support department, I was had about 30 to 40 different jobs assigned to me because they're a mixture from short to long jobs in support, to different to R&D, which was more project based. And I couldn't cope because I couldn't my desk was just chaos because there was just too many projects. I couldn't have a pile for every project. And looking at a list of all my things, I couldn't, it's like I couldn't see it. I couldn't see what to work on. Now, at the time, I just thought I was useless. How could I, do all right in R&D, but how is it I just can't cope in this environment? And so it's only been in recent years that a lot of these things have made sense to me. But that's not the point of the discussion. The point of the discussion is the discomfort and the pain that I felt trying to be good enough, trying to meet expectations, and trying to be how everybody expected me to be, and feeling quite demoralized and useless because I wasn't. And I don't know. It's very hard to tell now looking back because we're talking a long time ago now, over 30 years ago now, right? Was it over 30? Well, no, not quite 30 years ago. It was a long time ago anyway. Um, anyway, the time doesn't matter now. I've got myself. See, that's the ADHD brain. I just went off on a tangent of trying to figure out exactly how long ago it was. There we go. There it was in action. Anyhow, um, at the time, I lacked confidence, and at the time, they whenever someone made a mistake, they would get me to fix it because it built this perception that I was the one that made the mistake and it got them off the hook. We're working in the financial industry, so making mistakes uh, it was obviously often quite problematic, especially because if it affected people's money and the balances in their bank accounts. So I'm not sure if they did that as a result of the fact that I was trying to meet everybody's expectations and so therefore wasn't confident in who I am and so therefore was the perfect scapegoat. I will never know because I can't go back to that time with the confidence in who I am today. But I suspect that a lot of the behavior or the way people treated me had a lot to do with the fact that I wasn't being who I truly am. There, I was trying to be someone who I wasn't. So not only does it affect our behavior and how we show up, it also affects the way people treat us. If people sense that we're not in our authentic self, it actually gives them opportunity to take advantage in different ways. And I'm not suggesting for a second that people are nasty and mean and that they're trying to contemplate how they take advantage. I'm just talking about the subtle dynamics that happen between people when we sense things from each other and how things kind of unfold. So the shift for me and the way forward for me and how I now have confidence in who I am came from really coming back to embracing my who I am, strengths and weaknesses. So embracing the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created me, just like He created all of you, and that He created each and every one of us exactly how we were meant to be created, with our own uh, perfection in how we're designed, not perfection in how we are, because the way we behave is certainly not perfect and never will it be perfect, but how He designed us is perfect and with purpose. And so we all have purpose at various, and that purpose may change and evolve over time, but we all have purpose. And when we come back to embracing ourselves as that creation of Allah designed perfectly, we often find that perfect purpose more easily. And so what happens is we start to, stand firm on who we are. Like, I'm more than happy to say to people now, I can't meet that expectation, or that really doesn't work for me because I'm not good at that. So, for instance, if somebody today was to say to me, "Oh, could you be, treasurer of our organization?" I would say, "No, that's a really bad idea. That's not where my strength lies. I'm not because." One of the things that is challenging is for me is the detail, and being a treasurer you have to have the detail, right? I'm sort of see more in the bigger picture, and I'm not scared or unhappy about that, because we need some people who see the bigger picture, and we need some people who can see the detail, or who can follow through with the detail. And in fact, what makes a fantastic team of people working together is to have a range of these people. And so knowing that I'm not a details person means that it's important that I have people on my team who are details people, so that they can pick up the details that I'm missing, because my head is in the bigger picture. And so you see, you have the confidence to say no. You have the confidence to accept the roles that you're suited for and reject the roles in life that you're not good at. And also even push back against, some of the stereotypes that might be pushed upon you. So the way I am designed, I don't fit what might be described as the stereotypical Muslim woman or wife and mother, which, I challenge the stereotype a little bit anyway, but it is very, very challenging for me to keep up with um, those roles in that way. It's not easy for me, and so I actually now have confidence to say to members of the family, if you're going to expect that of me, you're going to be disappointed, because I just can't meet that expectation, or I can't meet that standard. And I don't feel unhappy about that, because I realize, Allah created me to be good at some things and not good at others. So when we shift our audience, or our focus on who our audience is, who is watching us, to being focused on Allah is the one who's watching us and not the people, we find true peace and confidence, and we can truly blossom into the best version of ourselves, and discover even things about ourselves that hadn't had the opportunity to blossom because we'd been holding them back, because we thought that somehow they were a weakness, or they didn't fit into the stereotype of or the stereotypical view of how we were meant to look in that particular role or in that particular setting, right? I mean, I don't know who makes these rules, but these rules are not helpful, and they're not helpful to anybody. um, Being able to come together as diverse individuals and living each moment as diverse individuals for the sake of Allah, coming together to find the best solution in every given moment, how Allah is guiding us in every given moment for the sake of Allah is going to come to so much um so much greater outcome than anything that fits into a nice tidy box that society thinks it should fit into. So if we care more about how Allah sees us than how people sees us, our actions become more sincere, and it frees us from the need of approval. Because one of the things that underneath all of this is this need for approval. Why do we need someone's approval? Well, maybe there was a deficiency of approval in our childhood. Maybe there was this, maybe there was that. We could go digging there. We don't have to, right? We don't have to go looking for why we have this need for approval. We just need to see clearly, smack bang in the face, that that's what's going on. That, okay, obviously I've got a need for approval here. And we may not be able to find the answer straight away. We take it to the prayer mat and we say to Allah, Allah, I only want to seek your approval. And I see that I'm seeking the approval of others to the detriment of me showing up as my best self for you, Allah. Allah, shift in me what needs to shift so that I don't seek their approval, but seek your approval only. Because if we seek Allah's approval, then we will naturally be being our best self for others. We don't need to put the approval of others before the approval of Allah, because the approval of Allah is all encompassing of everything. So when we put Allah first, the people are also put first, right? But if we put the people first, we lose Allah. And what is this life if we lose Allah? If we're not thinking about Allah, if we're not making our purpose for the sake of Allah? And then there's the next part, which is what I'll just close on, which is, you get to a stage in life, and I'm at that stage in life, where you really don't give a stuff what everybody else thinks. Because you know what? I am who I am. And if you don't like it, bad luck. Go find someone else to talk to. I've got plenty of people I can talk to, plenty of people I can be around. I would rather be around the people that I can work with, be myself with. Not that I'm saying that I'm not being myself with other people, but as soon as, I sense that judgment, sure, I don't need to allow that judgment to change my behavior, but I can also go, you know what? I don't want to be around that sort of person that's going to be judgmental, because it's not, um, it well, it just doesn't make life flow as easily, I suppose. Of course, for some, the people that you may be struggling with this with may be blood ties of relations, and you can't just have that choice. Well, then that's where we rely upon Allah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you the insight at the right time, in the right way, specifically for you, so that you can shift whatever needs to shift, or you don't shift it, Allah shifts it within you, so that that no longer becomes an issue, that you find a way of being able to interact with that person authentically as yourself. My mum is one of those examples. I was never authentically myself with my mum. She was somebody who had absolutely high expectations that I was always trying to meet and never seemed to manage to meet. And at a point, everything shifted back in 2016, so it's a while ago now. And I saw that how seeking her approval and bending myself out of shape to try and meet her expectations was actually a barrier to me having a very good and close relationship with Allah. And when I saw that, something shifted in me, And our relationship went on the rocks. It went quite rocky for a while. And now I'm just authentically myself. And what I am finding is slowly, slowly over time, my mom is starting to see me for who I am. And there may be aspects of that that she doesn't like. Just because you love somebody doesn't mean you have to like that about them. And I know the reason, the things that she doesn't, what I understand. I don't know, but I understand to a degree. I don't want to be assumptuous that I know my mum inside and out, because I don't. But from what I have experienced of her, my understanding is that her unresolved issues around religion is what makes it hard for her to like aspects of me, because I'm so passionate about being a Muslim. And so it's not personal. So I don't need to take it personal. I don't need to seek her approval. I just be myself. And slowly, slowly, more and more, our relationship has become closer and closer. And I've been able to open up again and tell her more and more. Alhamdulillah. So that's kind of my story. And my um, topic today on seeking Allah's approval, or seeking his pleasure, not theirs, and freeing yourself from the opinions of others or needing the approval of others. So, the time has come for you to ask any questions that you might have, or to share any insights that you might have got from listening to that. Go ahead, Raisa.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Walaikum salam wa barakatuh.
I've been in a test for months, and I recently had the realization of why I'm not showing up in the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is inspiring me to, and taking the inspired action that He is showing me, is because I am fearing losing my daughter. And I understand all of that intellectually, that I'm fearing losing her rather than losing Allah. And and then at the same time, there's like this, on the other side, there's like this pressure of like, why aren't you doing what you know you need to be doing? And so there's that blame, that component of blame and judgment that comes in on the other side. So it's like, I know I'm I know I'm like lacking or failing on one side. I'm also failing on the other time. And so it just makes me feel like a big failure.
Mm,
And and um and I'm so upset with myself, because why, I know this intellectually, but I'm not able to take the steps, or every time I take the, because I have to take a lot of mini steps to take a big step. And in I'm in the process of doing all the preparation for all the mini steps in order to take the big step. And at each moment, I'm just upset with myself, I guess. So I liked what you said about, taking it back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and asking Him to shift within me what needs to shift, so I can show up in the way He wants me to, and focus on getting my needs met through Him rather than my daughter or anybody else.
mm. The other thing I heard, sorry, it's not a coaching session, but just thought I would share.
I know. I realized that when I was talking, I'm like, this is not a coaching session, but I went into what I
Yeah,
went into.
yeah, that's okay. I think sometimes sharing these stories helps others realize that, everyone's going through tests and challenges. But the other thing I heard, beyond your words, was the focus on the outcome,
Yeah.
the fear of the outcome, because it was,
Yeah.
and you actually said it about, fearing losing your daughter.
Mm.
But the thing is, if you're feeling inside really guided that this is what you have to do, then who's in charge of that outcome?
Of course, it's Allah.
And if losing your daughter is part of that outcome, then is that something that you're meant to fight or you're meant to accept?
Yeah, I mean, I can accept that because it's not something new to me. um, and I think in that regard, it's like I'm fearing losing her, but the bigger thing is I don't want to lose Allah.
Mm-hmm. So the point of the question was really because if we can stare that fear in the face and no longer fear it, then the barrier to just taking the action can fall away.
Yeah, seeing the fear for what it actually is just fearful
Mm,
thinking.
yeah. I mean, yes, absolutely. There is a possibility that one of the potential outcomes from doing the right thing is that.
Mhm.
But that's not in your hands. What's in your hands is to choose what your nafs wants or to choose what Allah wants. That's the only thing that's in your hands.
Yeah.
Because the nafs wants to just feel safe, right? So it'll just come up with all sorts of reasons why not to do things that don't feel safe.
Yep, lots of reasons. I can witness it, observe my brain coming up with excuses and reasons.
Yeah. Hmm. Parenting, I think, is one of the hardest roles you ever play in your life.
Hmm. SubhanAllah. And it doesn't end. It doesn't end no matter how old they are. Like it doesn't
Mm.
end. Like going through tests, even in my own family, I can see parents going through tests when their kids are like 40, 40s in their 40s, it just doesn't end.
Mm.
Mm.
Well, alhamdulillah, at least Allah must love you sending you these exciting tests to go through. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Yeah. Alhamdulillah. I'm just gonna I'm just gonna sit with what you just shared with me.
Good. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you for listening.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for sharing. Alhamdulillah. Abdul Bari, I thought you might have a question. Go
Yes,
ahead.
Salam alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
I guess like a comment and also kind of a question that's also related to what Raisa was mentioning is that like when you were speaking today, you were talking about like the need for approval, and I think that's a very much valid need that many of us have. But I think also the other reason that Raisa just brought up was like the fear of loss, whether it's a fear of loss of a relationship or a job or whatever and whatnot. And I guess I think sometimes in our lives we get so tunnel focused, for example, on fear of losing this person or this job or that job or whatever, that we forget that actually there are endless possibilities that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can give it to us that we're not even seeing. And I
Mhm.
guess my question that I had here from that reflection is that what can we do or how can we develop that kind of mentality of even if we're not seeing the other possibilities, let's say for example, if you don't get the love from your daughter, then you can get a love from your friend or something like that. So if we how can we kind of even if we don't see those opportunities to be kind of flexible and open-minded that actually there could be possibilities that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can give it to us, but we're not seeing at this specific moment. So, and I think that would help with
First,
the fear of loss.
well, So the fear of loss is a separate topic, right? This topic was about you know, fearing what other being preoccupied with what other people think, and therefore trying to be someone you're not to meet their approval, or to meet
But
societal approval or familial approval. So the
yeah,
topic you're going into is a different topic. Maybe I can do that next Wednesday if you like, as a topic, as the fear of loss and that being a barrier to. It's actually just probably a good topic to do. We'll do it next week, and then I can unpack the whole thing.
inshallah. But because I also see like there is some link in that aspect, like I saw from my personal life, especially when I was younger, that I was trying to people please because I was fearing of losing them. So there's also that link as well. And I was just kind of wondering, wanting to explore that.
Yeah, well, we can explore it in full next week. You can stay tuned for the next episode. It's like a mini series where you have to wait a week for the next episode.
Okay, okay, inshallah. Sounds good.
You never know what insights you might have between now and then anyway.
Exactly, exactly. Sounds good.
Yeah,
Sounds
I
good.
think it's really important to stay on topic. Um, because otherwise people walk away with a confused experience of the topic.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
before we before we wrap up, I would love to hear uh, one or two takeaways of what you got from the topic of, when we're worried about what other people think and how that changes the way we behave. Go ahead, Munaza.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa
Because
barakatuhu.
like
And uh, well, my takeaway plus my insight is that when you take a stand for yourself, it always helps you if you ask for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for wisdom, because if you probably won't remember, if there was a time I shared with you that I was having trouble with someone very close to me, and I was afraid to set boundaries, and it was increasing and increasing and increasing, and then I had it enough, and then I asked for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give me the strength. And again, I can relate to the fact that I was afraid of losing her. That's why I was not doing what I had to do. And then I did it because I chose myself. I said, okay, even if I lose her, I need my sanity back. Right. And Alhamdulillah, I didn't lose her. Alhamdulillah. And she understood. She was not very happy about it. Obviously, there's always a time of, upheaval before things settle down. But uh, it was, again, what you said to Raisa as well, that outcome is not in our hand. And if that outcome was in our fate, that I was going to lose her, I would have lost her anyway without doing anything. So pleasing people and focusing on relationship and forgetting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We should focus on our relationships, but we should always keep Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's front and foremost. And then you will be more free. That, like you said, it was like beautiful. I needed to hear that again.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Yeah, and sometimes we may be holding on to a relationship that isn't good for us. Or it's not so much that we need to let go of the whole relationship, but we need some distance from it, for whatever reason. And Allah knows best what's best for us. So when we put our trust in Him, then we can take the right moves rather than dwell in our fears.
Indeed, indeed. Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah for sharing your takeaway too, sis. I've got another takeaway here in the chat. If you put people's pleasure before Allah's, you might lose Allah. What is this life if you lose Allah? Exactly. So the topic wasn't exactly people pleasing, Abdul Bari, although that may be one of the results. The topic was worrying about what people think about you, was the topic. So I will do the fear of loss topic next week, inshallah. Yeah, take it to Allah and He will show you the best way for everyone. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Anyone else got a takeaway before we go?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear sister. How are you?
Walaikum salam wa barakatuh. Good, alhamdulillah. How are you?
Alhamdulillah. Salams to everyone. Thank you so much. Jazakallah khairan. It was a wonderful session yet again. It's right on point when we put our focus on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is the turner of hearts. So He can turn the hearts of the people to actually love you. They will come after you, come for you. And also, being imperfect, we're not perfect as human beings, but if we have the intention to be perfect like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us, He will reward us that anyways. We can be ourselves and expect the best rewards from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, put Him first, and those people will come to you, inshallah.
Inshallah. Alhamdulillah. At the end of the day, the right people will be around us if we trust Allah in that. Alhamdulillah. And you know, one of the things that just popped into my mind listening to you, Mahmouda, and from what everyone else has said is the other thing to potentially challenge is our attachment to people above our attachment to Allah. You know, if that is actually also, you know, interfering with our ability to just do what we know is the right thing to do in the situation, subhanAllah.
Alhamdulillah, just one more thing to add. That's exactly right. Because for me, pleasing members of my family was so important. Until you seek knowledge from Islam, then you need to put Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first. And then you notice that your relationships become better.
That's right.
Well,
the ones that are meant to do.
Yeah. Well,
and the others that you're not meant to keep, they fade away, which is kind of a relief, because afterwards you realize that perhaps it wasn't that healthy having that relationship anyway. So
yes.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair, sis. So the difference is, Abdul Bari, that the people pleasing is the outcome of the worrying, is one of the symptoms. So fear of loss could be the reason for people pleasing, and worrying about what other people think could be result in people pleasing. So the people pleasing is the behavior. It's not the issue. That's the difference. So we're talking about what's the core issue. And then the behaviors resolve themselves, alhamdulillah. All right, time for us to wrap up. Subhanaka Allahumma bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.